What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Sunday, February 13th, and this is the Super Bowl 56 Recap Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a 5-star review. And, of course, we go live like this a lot during the offseason, maybe even more in the offseason than during the regular season. So hit that alert button, the little bell there, and you'll get alerts when we go live. Joining me to break down a thrilling game, maybe not fun for everybody, thrilling Matthew Stafford, Los Angeles Rams victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. The final score in this one, 23-20. Ryan Wilson and an on-site John Breech. What's up, fellas?
All right. I love Debo down here adding the sorry Breech. I've got people, VIPs being chauffeured behind me. That's what the horn honking, if you can hear that. They get golf carts. I am standing next to a tree outside the stadium because I couldn't be in there for more than 5 minutes to watch this celebration. The officials gave the Rams. No, look, it is crazy because watching this Super Bowl the entire time, it's close in the fourth quarter, and all I could think as somebody who's followed the Bengals my whole life is, obviously win it, but if you don't win it, please don't lose it in the most harrowing fashion possible. And then that's what happened. And it's just like, you guys were joking about how I might tear up or I might cry. And there was so much, you know what? There wasn't that because we saw what happened at the end, right when the Rams got their go-ahead touchdown with a couple iffy penalty flags. And, watching the whole game, trying to watch it a little objectively, it felt like, hey, you know what? T. Higgins got away with an OPI earlier in the second half. So they both got away with a free touchdown, and the Bengals got the ball back and a chance to win. And so for me, those touchdowns cancel each other out. And the thing I think that really cost the Bengals the most, and the thing that bothers me were the 2 fourth down calls. The one first quarter that led to the Rams' first touchdown, and then obviously the one to end the game. What are you doing? Run the ball, call QB sneak, don't go and chuck him. What are you doing, Zach Taylor? So those were the two things. Obviously I'm not happy about those flags, but again, T. Higgins got away with one. So it was the 2 fourth down calls that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, tough. I would agree with you completely, Breech. When you look at those 4th down calls, it was the 3rd down too, the run up the middle when you got Joe Burrow. I know that it was like, all right, let's run it. Let's see if we can get it. We're moving the ball okay on the ground. Maybe so we try to run it, and then we're going to go on 4th down anyway. I think give Burrow 2 shots to get that. I just think you need to give him another shot to get that conversion in that spot. Instead you end up Samaje Perine. They ran it with 2 on 3rd down. So instead you end up in that spot, the incompletion of Perine, and then Matthew Stafford takes a knee, and it's over. I would say that as far as the penalties go, certainly the holding call the first holding, the defensive holding call was probably the most controversial. I didn't think I thought the Whitworth holding call was a little ticky-tacky maybe, but I'm fine with it. And then of course the offsetting personal foul. It was clear. It was very easy to make. The defensive pass interference call as well, I thought was fine. I thought that was a fine call. But yeah, I mean, like Breech points out, T. Higgins got away with one. What was the environment in there like, Breech? What was like? I mean, was it mostly Bengals? Was it more Rams fans? What was the vibe in the stands in there?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because when I was walking around before the game, it literally felt like there were Bengals fans everywhere. But then once I got in the stadium, you can kind of tell they'll show people each team on the screen. You hear the cheers, and it was literally 50-50, which was awesome. From you didn't expect the Bengals fans to fill up half this stadium because they're coming across the country paying $5,000 per ticket. People were saying the Rams didn't have fans or the Bengals fans wouldn't pay for tickets, and it was literally 50-50, and that was awesome. And the best part was the fourth quarter when it was 20-16 Bengals after Joe Burrow got sacked like 10 times in a row. There was like a nervous tension in the stadium where you could tell neither fan base felt comfortable. You could tell the Rams were like, oh my God, Matthew Stafford, please don't throw a pick and give the Bengals the win here. And when the Bengals had the balls, oh my God, don't let Joe Burrow get sacked 3 straight times on this drive and fumble the game away. So it just both fan bases were waiting for something bad to happen because the second half, it was just everything crazy and bad kept happening. So it was very interesting to see that dynamic play out during the game.
Breech, can you hear me?
I think I got you, Wilson.
I feel like Breech is in a war zone. We need to make sure he's safe. So, how did you feel at halftime? Because at halftime, I felt really good about the Bengals' chances. Then they came out, and the T. Higgins touchdown, you can talk about whether it's a penalty now, that's fine. And then the very next play was the interception.
It was a penalty.
Let me hear. Yeah, let me get it. Let him talk. The very next play was the interception. The Bengals get the ball back. At that moment, where were you at?
Yeah, you know what? And one of you guys asked about how I felt about the flow of the game about midway through the second quarter. And again, my thought was, it was 13-10. The Rams probably don't have that touchdown if Zach Taylor doesn't make that asinine call on fourth down. Don't go for fourth down in your own territory and the Super Bowl. And so it was, we got fans now, guys. They want to be on the Pick Six podcast. So, and I'm still in the perimeter of the stadium, so I shouldn't get jumped. There's a lot of security around. So I thought at halftime that it really felt like the Bengals game. I felt like the Bengals played a very average first half. You're only down 3 points. And so if you're Zach Taylor, you're saying, look, guys, we didn't do much. And if I didn't make this fourth down call and give them a touchdown, we're probably up 10-6. And so I felt pretty comfortable. If I had my gambling app open on my phone, I think I would have pounded the Bengals money line at halftime.
Yeah. I
would have lost that money, obviously.
I mean, obviously I was on the Rams. I was on the Rams big. They didn't cover. Dagger. That extra point really stings because I had them 4, and you hit that. You feel great about it. I got a lot of the money line in the game when they were like plus 150. I felt like it was weird because at the beginning of the game, the Rams come out scorching. That offense is cooking. Odell Beckham looks awesome. Then he hurts his knee, and we think it was – I mean, wouldn't be shocked at all to find out it's an ACL injury. He doesn't ever come back in the game. Was questionable at first, but then ruled out quickly after halftime. Was in street clothes, no crutches. But clearly, that injury – dramatically impacted the game in terms of what the Rams were able to do from an offensive standpoint.
And Brinson, real quick to that point, let me just say, if Odell plays the entire game, the Bengals might have lost this by 2 touchdowns because they were so focused on shutting down Cooper Kupp. Odell was literally wide open on every single play. I mean, the play where he got injured would have gone for a big game if Stafford didn't throw behind him. I mean, Odell Beckham was just doing whatever he wanted. So if he's healthy and playing the second half, this game might not have been close at all. And obviously, you never want to see anyone go down with an injury, especially with what Odell's, so much drama. And he came out and he showed up on the national stage. I mean, he had an awesome game for the 2 quarters he was out there. And if he had played all 4 quarters, I don't think it would have been close.
No, I think Breech is exactly right about that. And look, Matthew Stafford didn't play a great game. And I was just talking with Brady Quinn on HQ, and he thought that Joe Burrow was up and down. And I think that's both fair. Both quarterbacks are running for their lives at various points of the game. But that throw to Odell Beckham is a throw that any quarterback at any level has to make. And the fact he threw it behind him, whatever, that happens. That's not on Matthew Stafford. But if you hit him in stride, Odell Beckham, to John's point, still running. So, again, field turf strikes again. Get rid of field turf, people. I don't get it because if that's grass, he's probably fine. But, again, a throw that I'm sure Matthew Stafford is just crushed about because it was – the fact that Odell had to reach back sort of caused him his knee to buckle. Again, you don't get hurt in that play, but it's just one of those tiny little things that can make the difference. And the field turf was the biggest difference maker.
Yeah, it was not a great throw by Stafford. And let's not forget either that, when, I mean, Odell had said this week he was going to come back to LA on a discount. Like Stafford, he had developed a really good rapport. So obviously the last thing Matthew Stafford wants. And, you talk about that throw where the Bengals scored the touchdown on the Higgins bomb. And then the very next play is the interception. Like it wasn't a perfect throw, but it's on Ben Skoranek, who was filling in for Odell Beckham. Like Odell Beckham makes that catch and picks up a first down. I thought that was the biggest difference in the game. Though I would give credit to at another point things flipped, and in the second half, it's just the Bengals have done such a great job for the entire basically first half and then change of getting the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands quickly and protecting him in pass pro. And then, it just took over. And like I saw, I think Mark Sessler of NFL Media tweeted, he was like, Joe Burrow's been sacked 6 times all of a sudden. Like it was happening really quick. At any point, Breech, when you're in there, did you feel like, here comes Aaron Donald and Von Miller, we might be in trouble?
Well, it's funny you guys talk about, I should have actually said this when Wilson asked me how I felt at halftime. It was that the Bengals played way better than I expected, trying to slow down Aaron Donald, at halftime, I think Joe Burrow had only been sacked once. I don't have the stats in front of me. And so, mentally I'm like, if Joe Burrow gets sacked less than 4 times in the first half, then the Bengals just played a brilliant first half. And so the fact that Burrow did not get beat up in the first half, I think probably gave the Bengals a lot of confidence, gave Bengals fans a lot of confidence. And so you're thinking, worst case scenario, he was going to get killed, and he didn't get killed. And so, obviously you knew that wasn't going to hold up all game. And so once he got beat up, once they started getting their hits on him, they had like 20 pressures. And I don't remember, you guys have the final sack number, but it was over 7 because I know they at least tied the Super Bowl record. And once then, Burrow gets just a little bit skittish. And there we are looking at the stats of you get sacked 6 more times in the Super Bowl, you're losing the game. You're losing the game. 0-4 right there. Roger Staubach, Cam Newton, Joe Theismann, and now Joe Burrow, the only guys that have been sacked 6 more times in the Super Bowl. And it just felt like the Bengals offensive line, whatever magic they were playing with, the magic beans that Ryan likes to talk about, those disappeared late in the third quarter. And it was like, all right, Joe, you're on your own. Try and win us this game. So, and that didn't happen. So, and that's where the Bengals offense disappeared. Once the Rams started getting pressure, and to the Rams' credit, they came through late in the second half, and their defense, that was when they had to make plays, and they did.
Yeah. And Aaron Donald, was asked after the game, like, are you retiring? Are you, what I mean? I think when you look at this game, not that Aaron Donald needed to do a whole lot more to make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but he has a claim now, I believe, with that Super Bowl ring to be maybe even the greatest defensive player in the history of professional football. Ended up with 2 sacks, had 3 quarterback hurries and 2 tackles for loss. He was an animal. After it was the play where he chased down Joe Burrow on the sideline and shoved him hard, and it was a perfectly legal hit. Definitely in bounds. Burrow was trying to pick up extra yardage and was going to get greedy. And then a bunch of offensive linemen came after him and started fighting with Donald. After that, Donald's game took off. It was very clear that he was that riled him up, in a way that wasn't good for the Bengals. I think it was surprising to me that we didn't see an Evan McPherson field goal attempt at the end, just because we've seen Joe Burrow deliver so many times in the clutch. And I do think that third down rushing attempt by Samaje Perine, where you get Perine in there because it's a pass down, and then oh gosh, the Tyler Boyd drop late in the game was so critical. That
let me ask Breech something real quick, just about before we get away from Aaron Donald. So they said during the broadcast, Breech, that first 35 minutes of the game they were just rushing forward, but had no one over the center, and that allowed the center to double team Aaron Donald. Then they started putting someone over the center, which means it was one-on-one with the guard, Adonijay, who got his ass handed to him a few times. Could you see that from the stands, or were you looking at something else? Could you see Aaron Donald's game change?
No, I mean, I didn't see that because when the Bengals were on offense, you're trying to watch the receivers run their routes, and then as soon as you see a guy open, you glance back at the quarterback to see if he has time to throw. And Burrow was doing such a good job, as you guys mentioned, of getting the ball out quickly. But the thing was, that's what it felt like, though, is that the Rams – something clicked on their defense, something that they had not figured out. And they're like, oh, if we slide everyone over, this is going to work. Because, again, once the late third quarter hit, look, there's a Super Bowl champion behind me. And so you Lombardi trophy. It's okay. He's good. He's good. And so, and that's what it felt like, is they figured it out and they took advantage of it. And what can you do? We've seen Joe Burrow get destroyed. And, even late in that game, the late fourth quarter, after they drove straight down, it really felt like, hey, this is going to be an Evan McPherson field goal. It's going to go to overtime. And it was just a horrible, and I cannot stress how horrible a 4th and 1 call that was to give the Rams the Super Bowl.
Hey, Breech, I don't know if you saw it, but Evan McPherson sat and watched the halftime show. Did that matter to you at all?
You know what? That actually is that's the one thing I'm happy about walking out of the stadium, is that Ed McPherson knows good music when he hears it. And I love when I saw the picture. I tried to zoom in on him. I was too far away to get a look at that. But the fact that he was chilling on the bench, because it was an awesome halftime show. That's going to be my lasting memory of this game, because I'm going to repress everything else in about 12 hours. But I will not repress the part with Evan McPherson sitting on the bench watching it. Yeah.
How we were having, I heard some people were like, I was like, okay. I thought it was freaking awesome. I mean, I know that they neutered the music a little bit. They were cussing up a storm, right?
Oh, they did whatever they wanted. That was the best part. So, the NFL was like, you can't do this. You can't do this. Don't kneel. You got to take this word out of your song. And no, these guys don't do that. They're going to tell you they're going to do that. And then they're going to be like, we're going to give the people what they want. And they went out and gave the people what they want. So that was really, really awesome. See, and Brinson, I do want to ask you this, but I wasn't joking so much because the Bengals just lost the worst Super Bowl ever. But how did you feel about your boy Matthew Stafford and his Hall of Fame chances? Because he led the game-winning drive, so you get huge credit for that with a little help from the refs. But, 2 interceptions almost threw the game away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that'll ultimately matter a whole lot because, when you look
no
at
one will remember.
He won the Super Bowl, had three passing touchdowns in the game, and his 2 interceptions again. One was Skoranek popping the ball up, and then the other was an arm punt that was not that big of a deal. He threw it in the end zone to try and get a touchdown on 3rd and long. You're punting anyway. They actually ended up in probably better field position than they would have been. I thought Stafford, frankly, overcame some really questionable play calling from your boy, Sean McVay, who spent the entirety of the game running on 1st down. I think it was Bill Barnwell noted they didn't have a positive expected points added EPA rush play until the 3rd quarter. It was their 20th rush. He was desperate to feed Cam Akers, and the Bengals decided, hey, look, the Bengals defensive line came to play. They were doing a great job blocking or shedding blocks, and the linebackers were getting free and getting in there and stuffing the run. And it just felt like, man, and again, like the other thing too, I think Matthew Stafford's day ends a lot different if Odell Beckham plays the entire game and doesn't get hurt. And I know Ryan, he potentially caused him to get hurt with a bad throw, but I think it's hard to deny. You look at this difference here, and again, always a great job by our research team with the Rams, 4-0, 70% completions in the playoffs, 11 passing touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, 108.3 passer rating. I don't know that I don't think the Rams win that game with Jared Goff at quarterback. And I know some people would try to argue that. Stafford's final drive, yes, aided somewhat by the refs. I didn't think insanely unfairly. Stafford's final drive to me was one of those things that, when you look at Matthew Stafford's resume, I mean, this is a guy who, for all the whinging about him not beating good teams or winning big games, has a ton of 4th quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. And he stepped up in a monster way on that final drive.
Yeah, and what's funny, Brinson, because you mentioned at the beginning of that is that Sean McVay had some questionable play calling. I would give both coaches in this game a C- at tops. And that was the whole thing. We talked about it all week, how Sean McVay is conservative. He did end up going for the 4th down there in the second half, a huge one that the Lions, Matthew Stafford, I'm channeling his old team, that the Rams had to have. It was with 5.5 minutes left in their own territory. So they could have punted because they had all their timeouts, 5.5 minutes. But I think at that point, McVay's thinking if we get back to the Bengals and Joe Mixon keeps running down our throat, they're going to run out the game. And so, he gets total credit for doing that. And then obviously Zach Taylor, again, there we go, youngest head coaches to win the Super Bowl. That is the 3rd Miami of Ohio coach to win the Super Bowl, by the way. That's the only thing I'm happy about. But Zach Taylor, I give him it. It's just one of those things where all season I feel like we're on the season. Wilson, I think you said this a lot. You don't know if he's a good coach. We don't know. And we still don't know because he has Joe Burrow. He's such a good offense. And, there were times in this game where I was like, Zach Taylor is brilliant. And then when you bookend your loss with 2 of the worst 4th down calls of all time in the Super Bowl, then, that hurts your grade for the game.
And let's not forget either that, on the Rams' final drive, Sean McVay had a 4th and 1 on his own 30 yard line, I think. And there were a lot of people, I was in a group chat and I was like, I thought you had to go there. I thought it was an obvious one, so I wasn't surprised he went. But a lot of people that I was talking to were like, no, you don't have to go there. You can absolutely punt it. To me, that's crazy. You're down 4 with that amount of time left. And they had punted on 4th and 4 around midfield too earlier. So I was under the impression that McVay, when it was 4th and 1, I was like, oh my God, McVay is going to punt here. Burrow's going to. I had
no, I thought he was going for it, and I just watched the game by myself because no one wants to text me. And I thought the end around the Cooper Kupp was a ballsy call, and I give him credit for that as well. But that's the thing; those plays, when they work, you're fine with it, and then when they don't work, he gets too cute, like Andy Reid in the I think it was a championship game.
Or Zach Taylor doing 4th and 1.
But I'll say this, just so I'm on record once again: Matthew Stafford did not change his Hall of Fame chances with this game tonight. You can talk yourself into it, but the reality is he was slightly above replacement level. I think if you look at the numbers,
you're just. I mean, we're not going to rehash this, but you're just wrong. If you win a Super Bowl, you do improve your Hall of Fame chances. That is just
fair enough. He's not going to the Hall of Fame. Joe Flacco improved.
What do you want to bet on? He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Hey, I'll bet your hair plugs. I'm happy to bet anything.
$100 Matthew Stafford goes to the Hall of Fame. You have to pay it for 10 years.
That's fine. Is he getting it before or after Joe Flacco?
Wilson, I'm going to jump in real quick and say I actually agree with Wilson because 7 years from now, if this is his only title, people aren't going to remember his numbers. they're just going to point out the ring finger. Where's my camera? There we go. He's got the ring, and that's it. And that's all that matters. And so, they're not going to say, oh, he threw 2 interceptions, or they might say he threw the game-winning touchdown. That's what it's going to be remembered as. And we had the graphic up earlier of the Bengals losses of Joe Montana beat the Bengals by 5. Joe Montana throws a 8-yard touchdown pass or 10-yard touchdown, Super Bowl 23, and then Matthew Stafford. So, but that's what he did. He threw the game-winning touchdown. He has a ring, and I think that's going to put him in.
I would say too that I would say that with the Stafford thing, he's just going to, it's just going to end up, when you look at his resume, he's going to be top 5 in every major passing category. He's already 5th at all time in terms of fourth quarter comebacks. He's going to have a Super Bowl. Now, if he picks up another Super Bowl, you're not going to bother with this nonsense, right?
Yeah, but let's be honest. He's not even there. I mean, Joe Flacco, as someone points out in the chat, Joe Flacco has a ring. Trent Dilfer, of course, has a ring. And
no. That's garbage. Those guys aren't anywhere near Matthew Stafford in terms of
your argument is it improves their chances. So that clearly improves their. That's all I'm saying. He's not a Hall of Famer.
Wilson, you mentioned a bunch of good names the other day, like Tony Romo. If he gets a Super Bowl ring, it feels like he's in. Ken Anderson, the Bengals quarterback in 1981. If he gets that Super Bowl ring, it feels like he's in. There's quarterbacks that feels like who are questionable cases, and if they get that ring, they're in. And that's Stafford. He got the ring. Rams fans are crazy. They should be. I would be doing the same stuff if the Bengals had won.
I mean, all right, Matthew Stafford is 12th all time in terms of regular season passing yards. He's 5 short of 50,000. The only quarterbacks who have 50,000 passing yards that aren't in the Hall of Fame are Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Eli Manning, and Aaron Rodgers.
What do all those quarterbacks have in common? They played in the last 15 to 20 years. So the game has changed.
And every single one of those quarterbacks is getting into the Hall of Fame.
We don't know if Phillip Rivers is getting in the Hall of Fame.
Maybe the exception of Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan. And what do they lack on their resume?
That's fine. As Pete Prisco,
up high, down hard.
As Pete Prisco likes to say, and as Brady Quinn has said also during the week, he's never at any point in his career been a top 5 quarterback. So I don't care. I'm happy for you to drive that bandwagon, but I think the reality is it's going to be tough.
Top 5, and I believe it might be multiple seasons by DY.
All right, we'll see. We shall see.
So I got a crazy question because I don't know the answer to it. Who won Super Bowl MVP? I was trying to get out stadium to this podcast. I don't even know who won.
Cooper Kupp.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
Deserves it. Can't argue that.
Absolutely. He was the best player on that team by a mile.
Yeah. You're just being.
Aaron Donald was 2nd. Leonard Floyd was 3rd. Ernest Johnson was 4th.
I actually thought Aaron Donald probably deserve to win the award based on.
I think Kupp is right.
Kupp, yeah.
He took over. I mean, he was if you base it on the first 3 quarters, no one in the Rams gets it because they didn't really show up to the last quarter there, and then they all started going off last quarter and a half, I guess. But good. I'm glad. I didn't know Kupp got it either. I like that.
Yeah.
What was the watchability of the game? Like, did it feel like a crazy Super Bowl, or would it feel boring and got exciting?
No, it was awesome. I loved it. And I think the halftime actually made you enjoy looking forward to the second. I mean, I loved everything about the Super Bowl. This was a great Super Bowl.
Yeah, the biggest problem of the Super Bowl.
It's going to make the top 15 of Brinson's rankings next year.
It'll be top 20 for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like you have a last second touchdown to win the game. You have the 2 number 1 picks, the big storylines all at stake. Launching Matthew Stafford into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, there's all this. The whole time. I mean, I really did feel like after that first touchdown to OBJ, and then the Bengals settled for a field goal, and Stafford immediately scores on the next drive. I was like, I mean, they're not stopping the Rams offense.
Well, Breech made it clear it was all about Odell Beckham. They had no answer for him because they were worried about Kupp.
Oh, no, without question. I mean, that was the problem. And Stafford didn't trust his other guys enough. They needed Higbee or OBJ out there. But yeah, it was very watchable. It was actually really fast paced too, because they were running the ball. Both teams were running the ball so much. And, with these, I'm trying to think, there weren't a whole lot of, I guess there were several punts early on, but, mostly moving the ball pretty well. Each team had 6 possessions in the first half and 7 possessions in the second half.
And not a lot of penalties except for
and you're totally right about fast pace. I'm literally sitting next to someone, games, it's usually about an hour and a half for the first half in a normal regular season game. You add some of that to the Super Bowl, it's, maybe an hour 40, hour 45 minutes because you have the commercials, and it was still shorter than an hour and a half. The first half just flew by. It was just like, how was the first half over? So if that felt that way in television, that's how it felt in the stadium.
Yeah, and the other thing too, the refs threw that was the problem with the penalties at the end there.
Yep.
Not that they weren't penalties. It was that this whole game,
They were getting mugged.
Letting everybody do anything they wanted. And I do think, I think that was to the Bengals' advantage, but severely to the Bengals' advantage. The fact, because, and not like they were trying to cheat the Bengals, just that it was the Bengals realized
allowed to be physical,
that they could be really physical, that they could be aggressive, be handsy, and they were that, and it bogged up the Rams offense. That happened to the Bengals. But that happened in another playoff game earlier this year. Was it the Bengals? Is it Bengals Titans or Bengals?
The Bengals Ravens.
Where somebody realized they were like, oh my God, they're not throwing any flags. We can do whatever we want on this field.
Yeah, I think it was.
That was Bengals Titans, where they're like, all right, well, we're just going to do whatever we want because it doesn't matter if you interfere. It doesn't matter if you do anything because there are no flags.
Yeah.
And then the officials in the Super Bowl decided, like, you know what? Oh, we have flags in our pocket. You know what? I'm going to start throwing those.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild to see almost virtually no penalties, because they had this situation where Donald, those guys are shoving each other in the face. Like, you get a penalty for that like 99% of the time. No penalties for that. There was the massive T. Higgins face mask that pulled down Jalen Ramsey's like, he gets up, he's like, he didn't even chase after him because he's like, well, I mean, they're going to throw a flag here, obviously. And there just weren't. And then, so it was that's why it was kind of jarring to have those 3 penalties pop up at the end. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube right now, smash the like button if you haven't already. Breech, we did have this is where you have to feel like, man, is this my moment? A Rams special teams miscue. Early on in the on the second touchdown with Johnny Hecker just dropped the snap. Do you see that? Have you seen that often?
Yeah, no, I absolutely saw that. And the funny thing is, so Brinson, I remember you telling me earlier in the week that I was willing all my props to a Bengals victory. You're like, Breech, if all your props hit, you're going to win. I had 2 early ones. One of them was a Bengals over 2.5 people throwing a pass. And I don't remember what the other ones might have been, a McPherson over 2 field goals. And so it just felt like the pace of the game was favoring the Bengals. And I felt like the missed extra point was actually a big play because, like you said, it didn't feel like the Bengals could stop the Rams at that point until Odell got hurt. But you score that touchdown, instead of going up 14-3, it's only 13-3. And those are little things that, like, hurt the momentum a little. The Bengals, like, they trotted off the field smiling because they're like, yeah, we made a stop, even though you're down 13-3. And then, the Bengals quickly get a touchdown, and it felt like the offense kind of fed off that momentum, made 13-10. And so, yeah, that ended up, if the Bengals win, I would say that was one of the key points because that point could have been up huge, but then it wasn't because they lost.
And that point, because Sean McVay never went for 2 to make up for it, that point ended up being the difference between a push against the spread of the 4 or the Bengals covering by +3. I did think too that, and I'm just curious if you agree with this or not, but like, and I'm not trying to, I think the Rams are the better team on Sunday, and they ended up winning. I thought that the Bengals I don't want to say they got some early breaks in that game, and then just sort of the way that the game was officiated really lent itself to how they played. And don't get me wrong, like their defense was really, really good for a lot of that game. Once Odell got hurt anyway, and then their offensive line was way better than anyone expected early on. I mean, did you guys? It felt like when the Rams scored early, it was like they could pull away here. And then once the Bengals got to halftime and it was close, it was like, all right, and this is just gonna be a game. Nobody's gonna blow anybody else out here.
Yeah, I will say that, like I said, if Odell stays in the game, the Bengals might have lost by 2 touchdowns. Absolutely. So during that span of the game, the Rams were absolutely the better team. But after Odell went out, I thought the Bengals were the better team. Not, it was close. It's like 52 to 48%. It wasn't like they were dominating, but I felt like they were slightly better. But absolutely, when Odell was out there, the Rams were the better team, and his injury kind of changed the game and kept it close and made it crazy.
I think that's right. I think, but the issue is, you could argue that the Titans were the better team and the Chiefs were the better team. They just found ways to win. And the thing is, the Chiefs. I mean, and the other thing about the Rams going up early, well, we've seen that before too against San Francisco, and then the friggin' wheels fall off. So you just never know. In this case, it was Odell Beckham getting hurt, and then the subsequent pass to Skowronek, like he's playing volleyball and batted up in the air. I think Logan Wilson had the interception. So the things seem to be going the Bengals' way, and then the defense made an adjustment for the Rams in the second half, and Burrow was getting after it. Then he had to get his knee all twisted up, and he wasn't the same after that. And, we saw how the game ended. Great job by Matthew Stafford at the end. Cooper Kupp took over.
Hey, Breech, what was your reaction in the stadium to the Joe Mixon passing touchdown.
Ooh, me.
That was my favorite play of the game because Joe Mixon was my secret. On Friday, we made our final picks for the game, final picks for MVP, and I said, Joe Mixon, if he plays a great game, the Bengals are winning. He's winning MVP, and that's it. And I just right then I felt like I was like the Bengals are going to win. This is exactly what they needed. Joe Mixon's dicing up. He's getting these big chunk runs. He throws a touchdown pass. I lost it. And that's the things you need to win a Super Bowl. We saw with the Eagles in 2017 when they go with the Philly special, and so the Bengals were going straight out of that playbook, and that's the kind of exciting moments you need. And obviously, it wasn't. You guys see what I'm dealing with? I'm getting rammed housed everywhere I go.
Wow, Rams.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're wearing a Breech jersey, so people are yelling at you. Yeah. They're like, why is this telemarketer why is this telemarketer operating in the state in the outside of SoFi? And
the funny thing is, if they're like Pick Six podcast fans, obviously they're at the game, so they're not watching it live now. They'll watch it tomorrow and be like, oh crap, I saw that guy. Now I feel bad. They're gonna hear their voice.
Breech, you probably saw it on Twitter, but that was the first pass ever in Joe Mixon's career. Only had one in college.
I did not know that. That makes it even more of a fun fact. Because it was such a perfect throw. And then the Rams tried to run a trick play where, was it Cooper Kupp that tried to throw it?
Yep.
And the thing is, if he had run the ball, if he had just kept it and run, he had one guy to beat and he probably scores a touchdown. And instead he throws it to Matthew Stafford. He's not athletic. Matthew Stafford is not going to be a guy who's diving and catching.
Throw. It was a terrible.
It was a terrible throw, but still, that was an interesting play, but none of it matters. All right, guys, I got about 5 more minutes. So if you want to ask me other questions.
No. Why don't you bounce and go drown your? Oh, I know. Did you cry?
No, he didn't cry. He said he didn't cry.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to say about crying, because I think Ryan had that at even odds, and it was a prediction. Was that the final 2 minutes were very emotional, and so, but when the flags got thrown and the Rams got a free first down at the 1 yard line, it was kind of anger. So that takes away like your tear ducts, and you're just mad about it.
Yeah, that's true.
But the fact that they scored fast, then it was like, you know what? Even though they got this touchdown, I don't think they should have got. And again, even out with T. Higgins touchdown, so whatever. The Bengals had the ball with a minute 30. All they needed, or minute 15, whatever it was, all they needed was a field goal. So the fact that it was in their hands, it was like it's the Bengals' fault if they don't win this in the end, because they have plenty of time to get in field goal range. And so the end of the game for me was shock and disbelief that they could not convert. This high-powered offense could not convert off 4th and 1. And so it was just like angry and shocked. And no tears. So this was the only ending that could have happened where I didn't cry, and that's the one that happened.
Did you
Ryan, we live in a simulation.
There you go. Did you see Taylor Rapp propose to his girlfriend after the game, and what are your thoughts on doing that after a Super Bowl win?
Well, I would say if your team wins, what was his plan if they lost the Super Bowl? That's what I want to know. Your team wins the Super Bowl
last year. After the
do loss. Whatever you want. That's to the victor goes the spoils. That's how the saying goes, and I don't have any problem with it.
Also of note, things we should cover while Breech is still here. Van Jefferson, his wife went into labor mid-game and was taken to the hospital. So Van Jefferson, after he leaves the locker room, grabs his kid, his dad and his son are coming walking down. They jump, they grab, they hug, and they're like, awesome, we won a Super Bowl. He's like, get to the hospital now.
That one, I did get the story of that one. Actually got that story text to me. And the funny part of that is because one of the stories I shared on the Pick Six podcast while we were in LA was that, my mom missed Super Bowl 16 because I was born like a few days before it. And the doctors were like, it was in Detroit, negative 20 degrees. And they're like, nah, you shouldn't be there because that's not good for the baby. So good on Van Jefferson's wife thinking, hey, you know what? I can go enjoy the Super Bowl. And then I'm sure her water broke when she was like, yeah, maybe this wasn't the best idea. The Rams won. If the baby's healthy, it all paid off. And, they're going to have a great story to tell for the rest of their life.
This is a good point by Wilson. Dropped this Shiokipedia, friend of the podcast, Shiokipedia, tweet in Slack. Joe Burrow sacked 19 times in the playoffs. That's the most for any quarterback in a single postseason in at least the last 20 years, and it's not close. No other QB was higher than 12. Breech, what would you like the Bengals to do with the 31st overall pick in the NFL draft?
You don't have to do
everything. They have like $60 million in cap space. Offensive line, draft pick, offensive line. Trade someone away for an offense. Get offensive lineman. If Joe Burrow, if you just up his protection like 10%, you feel pretty good about the Bengals' chances of getting back to the Super Bowl, or at least being an AFC title contender for years to come. But you have to fix the offensive line. That literally just scratch everything else off your to-do list. Don't call anyone else. Don't court anyone else. Just draft offensive linemen, sign offensive linemen, all offensive linemen, and let Joe Burrow handpick them, probably former LSU guys.
You said court.
All right, smash that like button. Give John Breech the likes, because he just had to watch his team lose a Super Bowl in what was it was a great game. It was a fun game.
How does SoFi look in the background?
Great.
It looks a lot better now than it did before.
Yeah, when it's not exposed on your face. Yeah, no, that looks good.
Yeah, it looks good. All right, Breech, you want to get out of here? And,
I'm going to go drown my sorrows and say hi to my sister who patiently just waited for 35 minutes and go hang out with my family and be sad.
All right, tell Marina Del Rey we said hi.
Okay. See you guys.
All right, see you, buddy. All right, we're going to break.
We're here. Let's go save some lives.
Wow.
Is that safe?
This isn't an easy mission, and there may be a few surprises.
Come on.
Is this where I get to say I was born ready?
I'm gonna figure this thing out, whatever it takes. It's gonna be close.
We do our best work when it's close.
All right, Wilson. So you're whole bitter that the Bengals lost, but glad that they covered. Anti-Matthew Stafford.
Oh, they did cover. Yeah, that's right. That's good.
Yeah.
But I said double-digit win, so I didn't really win.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very clear that you want to use this game as badly as possible to bring down Matthew Stafford.
Yes.
So let's have a discussion about the continue about the MVP debate. Cooper Kupp versus, I think, Aaron Donald, maybe the only other option, really.
Are you putting Matthew Stafford in there or not?
I think that you could have given it to Matthew Stafford, and
it would be a Super Bowl type MVP, but it wouldn't have been the right call.
It would have been like, did Peyton? It's like Peyton won it in 2006 when the Colts beat the Bears and they didn't do a whole lot on offense. It was just a slow game. It's like, well, Peyton's finally won a Super Bowl. Let's give him the MVP.
There we go.
Second lowest receiving yards of any wide receiver to win Super Bowl MVP, but did have those 2 touchdowns.
I just saw a tweet that I probably didn't say, but Odell Beckham got hurt with about 5 minutes to go, I believe, in the second quarter. And I think someone said in the locker room, the Bengals said they completely changed their defensive scheme once Odell went down. They did a lot of man coverage. So I would imagine that they included a lot of double teams to Kupp until Kupp decided on that final drive that, you know what, I got to overcome this double coverage. And he started doing that. So I think you're exactly right, Debo. He was a non-factor for 45 minutes, maybe a little more.
He didn't do a whole lot. So when Huber punted with 6:20 left, Stafford hits Hopkins, incomplete to Skronik. I can't pronounce anything. Cam Akers run. Cooper Kupp, they do the end around or the little jet sweep on 4th and 1
on their own 30 there. Yeah.
And I see, this is where I think to the point about it is, and the same sort of thing applies with Edelman in that game where they beat the Rams. Because with Holmes, it was basically like, we can't give it to Big Ben because of, the off-field allegations.
That was an amazing catch.
No, of course it was, but it was a better throw.
Okay.
So Kupp takes the end around, and that play, like when he got out in space, it's like, how's he gonna get a first down? And all of a sudden, he's just got 7 yards.
I think prior to that, he had that first half little swing pass that he took for like 16, 17 yards, and that seemed to be it. But right, this drive
he wasn't having a monster Cooper Kupp game for sure.
And this drive started with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
He had the touchdown catch too, because he finished with 2 touchdowns.
Oh, okay.
He had the second touchdown, which got him to 13, and then Hecker dropped it, so they stayed on 13.
Gotcha. Right.
Yeah, he had the second. Yeah, he had the second touchdown in the back there. But so anyway, they do the end around to. I lost my place. They did the end around to Kupp, and then it's like incomplete pass to Cam Akers. Hit Kupp for 8 yards, Hopkins for 6 yards, Akers for 3, Kupp for 22, Kupp for 8, Cam Akers at the middle for 8, and then you have all the penalty stuff happens.
No, hold on. No. That next play after the 8-yard run by Akers is Matthew Stafford, your boy, Miss Van Jefferson back in the end zone, and Chris Collinsworth tried to paint it like it was a hard pass to make over Von Bell. That's a pass Patrick Mahomes makes. That's a pass that Josh Allen probably makes. And look, I'm not counting that against Matthew Stafford, but if he had made that touchdown catch, we wouldn't have said, oh, my God, that's as good as the back shoulder Kupp touchdown that he had. That would have been, okay, that's a throw he's supposed to make.
All right, so on that, I mean, I agree. Like, he needs to make the pass. I would just say that what he needed to do was hold it for just a tiny bit longer and then get Jefferson in the end zone. I give him credit because on that pass, it was 1st and 8 from the Cincy 8. you cannot throw an interception there.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean, because like if you try to lob it, like was it Von Bell or was it
Von Bell was underneath.
Von Bell's underneath, and I thought when you showed the initial television angle, it was like, oh my God, Stafford, what did you miss? And then they showed the end zone angle. Credit to NBC for that. When they showed the end zone angle or the behind the Stafford viewpoint angle, it was like, okay, I mean that's you want to
pass, but it's the one you would expect.
He needed to hold it a little bit longer than make the easy pass. You can't throw a first down interception there.
And look, I don't hate the incompletion, but when you saw the way it was thrown, like, oh, okay, I would like a little closer.
I think he was trying to err. And look, let's also bear in mind I had a busted up ankle. Probably come out. I don't need surgery on that too. I mean, that was a pretty ugly little injury. Burrow might have a knee thing too. It's just I felt like he wanted to err on this. He's like, if I'm going to miss, I'm going to miss high. I'm not gonna miss this pass low where Von Bell can somehow make a play on it and create an interception because again, it's first down. Imagine what the online rhetoric would be if he threw a pick there.
Two things quickly. Someone in the chat said Breech is way more handsome than the way he sounds, and then someone else thinks that you and I are spicy. This is actually a pretty low level spice for me and Brinson.
Well, Wilson one of the Bengals.
But I'm not. I've been spicier. I would feel like, all right.
Yeah, you look spicier, but there's a little bit of Stafford-fueled animosity going on.
No, that's right.
I think you guys are probably on opposite sides here, but to you guys, is it clear which quarterback played better in this game? I feel like they're very close, and I think Ryan's going to say Burrow and Brinson's going to say Stafford. But
here's the thing, Debo.
I think removed. Yeah.
If you put them on the opposite teams, I don't know. Like I feel like I think they're almost even Stevens.
I thought both quarterbacks overcame coaching to a degree.
And some missed some
I didn't
throws.
I didn't think Zach Taylor had a bad game necessarily, except, I mean, obviously Breech feels a little bit different, but I mean, I thought McVay was horrendous in this game with his play calling. He was so vanilla.
I think he just wanted the running game to get going no matter what, and it just never did.
And Breech gave him a C-. I mean, up until the 60th minute, Zach Taylor gets like an A-.
Yeah, it's funny that Breech felt the way he did because I'm sort of with you, Debo. I didn't think that the play calling for the Bengals was that bad. Now, compared to the Chiefs game, it was like he was Bill Belichick because we were yelling and screaming about all those first down runs, and
it was McVay who was doing all the first down runs. In this game, it was like, oh my God, dude, what are you doing?
And Joe Mixon actually was cooking a little bit, so I understood the first down runs, and Breech talked about how excited he was about Burrow getting the ball out of his hand early, and then something changed. I don't know if it's what Collinsworth talked about in terms of just having someone over the center, allowing Aaron Donald more one-on-ones or what, but it changed, and then there were no answers, and then Burrow got rolled up on, and it felt like it was too late. I don't hate the Pirine call. I mean, as Breech noted, it's a play you don't expect, in much the same way you don't expect that Cooper Kupp.
The third down call was the issue for me.
I don't – right. I mean, it's third down. He's a big fat guy. You expect him to get it. Just like if the Cooper Kupp thing didn't work out on 4th and 1 from their own 30, I think that's where it was from. You're like, oh boy, this is an idiotic play call because you're not just running up the middle. But the running game wasn't working up the middle, so I'm okay with it. I mean, it could have been a little spicier if you want to call it that for the Pirine call. I'm not going to fight you on it, but I didn't loathe it. I didn't think that Zach Wilson did a terrible job, for being honest.
Zach Taylor.
Zach Wilson, he had a great game tonight.
But just back to the MVP thing, and this would be sort of my argument. Is like I think you could make the case that, I mean, Kupp was huge late.
Oh yeah, of course.
But Stafford was huge late too. Like Stafford was jamming, like slinging darts into little windows because they basically said, "All right, here's the deal: we don't trust anybody else enough. It's Cooper Kupp. You're gonna have to get open, and Stafford, you're just gonna have to make some throws." I mean, some of those throws he made were like.
I would have to go back and watch the last drive. The touchdown throw was a fantastic throw. I felt like Cooper Kupp was open. There were some windows.
No, go back and watch it. There were a couple where it's like Stafford threw it, and you're holding your breath a little bit when you see where the Bengals players are, and it's
you're holding your breath.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Stafford played okay. I thought he played really well to start.
No, that's right.
For a lot of the game, a little jittery maybe. They were, look at that. Great stat from our awesome research team, our buddy Justin Page, who we hung out with at the Super Bowl a bunch, and that whole team. Matthew Stafford, 71% completions, 14 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 123.2 passer rating in the fourth quarter this season. As I mentioned, he is 5th all-time in fourth quarter comebacks.
Yeah, because he throws so many interceptions earlier in the game that he has to come back. It's a loaded stat. He had 17 regular season interceptions through 3 in the postseason, including 2 in the Super Bowl. Cut him.
And the 2 in the Super Bowl were not like. Anyway, I think that you could make the case that like
got you triggered.
Cooper Kupp disappeared for like for portions of that game. I feel like Aaron Donald, I would have voted for Aaron Donald for MVP.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if Cooper Kupp disappeared. I don't know if Aaron Donald disappeared. I think the game plans were pretty solid by both the Bengals offense and the Bengals defense against those two players. And then in crunch time, both those guys said, okay, it's time to make things happen. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, that sack, I don't know if it was 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 against Adonijay. That poor right guard had no chance once it was a one-on-one and Aaron Donald got underneath his pads and almost pushed him. It felt like he pushed him where he was going to be flying over Joe Burrow's head like Dukes of Hazzard jumping a river or something. That's how far underneath his pads he got, and there was nothing he could do about it, and it ended up being one of the many Joe Burrow sacks. If you get Aaron Donald, I'll be fine with it. I just think the Cooper Kupp touchdown was pretty spectacular in that last drive.
Sure.
Did it for me.
Look, Kupp and Stafford did what they've done all season on that final drive, and that was the difference.
By the way, the Trey Hendrickson sack in the first quarter, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be something, because they got the first sack of the game, and we talked about maybe the scripts flipped in terms of the defensive line.
Bengals played in the trenches in the first half as well as they could have possibly played.
Brinson, I was just going to say on Donald, the retirement stuff is just crazy. How Rodney Harrison nonchalantly drops it pregame, and you kind of are a little skeptical, but you believe it because he had the conversation with Aaron Donald. But he has a game like this, probably should be or could be Super Bowl MVP, and then could walk away out on top. Like, this has never been done with a defensive player like this, walking out on top. He's going to turn 31 in a couple of months. I would love to see him continue to really stamp himself potentially as the greatest defensive player of all time. And I feel like you're cutting yourself a little short of that if you retire now. I get wanting to go out on top, but that's a major storyline.
Yeah, I agreed completely, Devo. And I would say this. If you are Aaron Donald and you did walk away after 2021, your career, there is not a single hole in you. The closest thing to a hole in your career, he's never missed a game in his career. He has won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. He has won Defensive Rookie of the Year. He only didn't. He's been a Pro Bowler, an All Pro player every single year except for his rookie year when he was quote unquote just a Pro Bowler, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. He was in the All 2010s team. He is I'm trying to think if there's other awards that I'm missing. I mean, I think that would be the argument, is that you would look at his career and say, my goodness, this guy doesn't have like a single hole in his resume.
He sucks against and run defense. That was the talking point on Twitter a few years ago, I believe.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, it was like earlier this season or this off season. I mean, the point being is that like Aaron, you would look at Aaron Donald's career and say he just had 9 years of like almost perfection from a defensive standpoint. I guess
it's like what else is there left to accomplish might be to get in his mind a little bit. You got the ring, like you just listed. He has everything that you could need from an individual accolade standpoint as a defensive player, and you got the ring now.
So if you look at Lawrence Taylor's career, this is actually kind of interesting. Lawrence Taylor played for, let's see, I think 10 seasons through his 30-year-old season. He only missed All-Pro 1 time. He won MVP, won 3 Defensive Player of the Years, 1 Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year in his rookie season. And then had 3 seasons where he played 14, 9, and 15 games. I don't think that maybe one was a suspension. The point being that Aaron Donald may think, I'm going to be done in 3 years anyway. I'm going to retire at my peak having just won a Super Bowl. The one thing I think that would change it is Matthew Stafford bangs out a contract extension quickly with the Rams, and it's believed that he's going to do that. And the Rams are like, look, we're going to go all out to try to run this back next year. And maybe
I'll say Aaron Donald at 34 and Lawrence Taylor at 34 years old are very, very different people. Right. Aaron Donald, one of the world-class athletes, treats his body like a temple all year round, and Lawrence Taylor, a lot of extracurriculars. That body was probably 74 when he was actually 34. Right, so that's right. I don't think Donald has shown any signs of decline at all. So that 34 is there. And I was just kind of looking around, 5 guys maybe that we consider, the best defenders of the past 40 years or so. Reggie White retired at 37 and then came back at 39 again. Dion retired at 33 and then came back at 39, obviously a different body type. Ray Lewis was 37 when he retired. Lawrence Taylor, 34. So 31 would just be remarkably young.
So here's the thing. I looked this up quickly, although nothing's quickly on Pro Football Reference in terms of trying to sort these things out. Just in terms of approximate value, and that's what Pro Football Reference uses to try to have a rough grade on these guys. Reggie White, no surprise, is number one among all defensive linemen. Bruce Smith is number two. Junior Seau is number four, which is pretty impressive. That tells you how good he was, and we sort of forget about that. Derek Brooks is on the list. LT is on the list. And Julius Peppers is seventh, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer, of course.
Yeah.
And you have to go down to 34. This includes guys who are also in the Hall of Fame, so take that in consideration. Aaron Donald's at 34. So just to give you some reference.
In terms of approximate value all time?
Yeah. And just hold on. Approximate value for Reggie White is 231. And then you go down to Strahan at 11, Hall of Famer. It's 161. As we sit here, Aaron Donald is at 130. So he's in the Hall of Fame. There's no question about it. I just don't know if we're ready to put him in the top 5 all-time of defensive players, even though I think he's absolutely an unadulterated, fantastic football player that deserves everything that comes his way.
Well, I think he's probably top 5.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying it's not clear cut.
Yeah. I mean, Debo, I know you weren't alive to watch Reggie White. I'm just kidding. Would you put Reggie White? Oh, look at you.
Debo shaved for the Super Bowl.
My goodness. Oh, look at the Reggie White picture. Would
Thank
you put
you,
you're obviously alive. But you were mostly alive for Reggie White's, or like your football memories are probably watching Green Bay Reggie White, right?
I mean, I was born in 91. He left the Eagles in 92, wins a Super Bowl with the Packers in 96. So it's more just like the legend of Reggie White and watching NFL films and all that. And you just hear about him as, just obviously the best Eagle of all time. And then I think Eagles fans will make the case him over LT for sure.
All right. So I think Reggie White played 15 years. Total approximate value is 231, as you mentioned, Wilson. That is 15.4 per year. I think this is what would be interesting to do with Donald, which is to say, okay, what if we do it on average approximate value, right?
Well, then that works out to, I think it's around 13 and change, because this is his 9th season. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's still a little below. So he needs to somehow ratchet up.
Oh, wait, 130. No, it'd be 14.44.
So he's close. There you go.
For sure.
I mean, a little bit tougher to kind of measure.
I think
someone
so.
On the interior of the line versus a linebacker or an end. That's the key. And he's still kind of putting up defensive end stats and kind of putting up these numbers, playing a little bit of a different position.
Yeah, I think
that's right.
Yeah, I sort of wonder if what the accumulation of that approximate value is relative to an edge, because we know that edge rushers are more valued. And I do think too, you got to say, this is a guy who all right. How about this? He's probably the best defensive tackle to ever play the game.
Yeah, we'd have to ask Prisco because he knows history better than anyone. But I'm not going to argue with that off the top. I don't even know who number 2 would be.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough situation.
Casey Hampton for me probably.
Sean McVay and Zach Taylor. I mean, I was really disappointed in Sean McVay. Look, they won the game. He didn't care how. He didn't care. He didn't care about covering. But I feel like the Rams had a path. There's a path to kind of blowing that team out, and they were hindered by the fact that McVay was just insistent on trying to run the ball, and it was absolutely ineffective.
Didn't waste timeouts, except although he did get the first time out of which everyone in playing. I mean, Vegas must have lost so much money on that one, on that prop bet, but he didn't waste them afterwards. He actually had all 3, I believe, going down the stretch.
We mentioned the Taylor 4th down calls. I think those will linger with him, but I don't necessarily think...
I know some folks in the comments, and Breech obviously was very angry about them. I didn't hate the Pirine call. I suppose, what did you want to do there? Give it to Joe Mixon? Or
third down? Yeah, I would have had Mixon in there on third down.
That's fine. I think that the fear with...
I wanted Joe Burrow to get two shots. I'm giving Joe Burrow 2 shots.
He may have been hurt, and that may have had something to do with it.
That's true. That's fair. And look, Stafford may have been hurt. Both those guys took those injuries, that knee injury and that ankle injury were,
looked like game enders for both those guys, and they came back.
I know. The announcing, the broadcast, Al and Chris were way more concerned. Like when Burrow, they were like, "Oh, whoa!" They were like, I think they thought, "Oh my God, he just tore his ACL again," and it could come out that there's some sort of sprain or something like that. I mean, that wouldn't be
good.
surprising at all.
Did not look good.
Yeah, Stafford, certainly when you saw the replay, you're like, man, that's really not good as well. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the referees.
Okay.
We're sort of talking about it with Breech. Do we need to take it to the break, Tebow? What's the deal here?
Good. Let's keep this thing rolling.
Keep it rolling.
Rolling with the homies.
You asked Wilson about the referees while I use the little boys room and get some ice.
I mean, yeah, you leave. I'm going to switch the subject, but get out of here.
Fine. Take a new subject.
Halftime show talk. Let's go, Tebow.
you know it, Ryan. You've been to 8 or 9 Super Bowls in person?
Yeah, I think 8. I have to do the math. I think 8.
You weren't at this one. What was the best one you saw live?
I mean, I suppose Beyonce and Madonna did the first one, but I'm not a Beyonce or Madonna person, but just the fact that who they are, and that was a big deal. But I mean, one was Coldplay, one was Katy Perry, one was the guy in New York. I can't remember his name. I'm trying to think the last one. I didn't know who was
Maroon 5.
Maroon 5. I don't know if I was at the Maroon 5 one. Coldplay was San Francisco. What's his name's not Mars Blackman.
Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars. Mars Blackman would have been better. Bruno Mars was at one of them, and none of those guys really do it for me. I mean, Left Shark and Right Shark, whatever his name was, on the Katy Perry one. So I've said this from Jump Street. I was fine flying home on Saturday, the day before Super Bowl, just because it can get so hectic and you're gone for so long, gone for 2 weeks because of Senior Bowl and all that. And I was happy to get home last night. But I was legitimately regretting not being at the Super Bowl when I mean, that show, you talk about Breech tearing them if they won. I was getting emotional because it was like all the stuff I listened to like in late high school, early college for the most part, except for Kendrick Lamar, of course. I was never a big Mary J. Blige fan, but I certainly didn't dislike her performance or her in general, but everything else, I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. And Debo, obviously you were born in 91. So Chronic came out in 92, I believe.
92.
Yeah. So where were you at? Actually, I'm a huge Eminem guy too. I love Eminem. I love 8 Mile. I told you a couple months ago that I go back and watch the rap battle on YouTube every once in a while, just because I forget how good it is. How would you rank the performers if you, in terms of how much you enjoy?
Oh, you're giving me a ranking system. I mean, I just think the pure joy and kind of the combo to start it off and end it of Dr. Dre and Snoop together is at the top of the list. Mary J crushed it, and she got the opportunity to do 2 songs. It's tough to separate. And then, I mean, I think it was unflappable from top to bottom. And then we get 50 in there out of nowhere.
It was upside down.
Upside down. Like it was 2003, Get Rich or Die Trying.
I'll tell you this much.
50 looking a little hefty, but he still got it.
More like 150.
More like 75 cents.
Hey-o. I will say this, Debo. I didn't come to Kendrick Lamar until a couple years ago because I'm old. But the choreography on that set, that was the best choreography. It was like hardcore Black Panther type awesomeness. He's on the Black Panther soundtrack, as it turns out. And I absolutely loved that. I didn't realize he was so short. What'd you think of that performance?
It's great. Brinson.
This is the
Whoa. First of all, it is in like that halftime show was designed for like my demographic. I mean, are you serious? It was, right?
No. You're old. You're 40. I'm 48. It was designed for Debo. Like those guys. I mean,
I agree with Brinson. It was probably slightly older than me for like you said. Chronic was 92. Doggy Style.
But I think it was more an LA thing, and those are like the OG LA.
I mean,
guys.
Chronic and Doggy Style are like. I mean,
Brinson was 11 and 12 when those came out. I was 1 and 2.
Right, but yeah, it's like what year did Nevermind? Nevermind was what
91.
Right, so. These
Actually,
albums,
it might have been spring of 92.
It was September 91. So by the time that I was like 13, 14, 15, where you're buying your own CDs and trying to sneak around those.
I think it's buying your own weed.
No. I mean, like those albums were massive for us. So I love the halftime show. I
think it was spread across millennials. Brinson being the geriatric millennial that he is, and myself on the younger side of the millennials.
Lee Carney in the chat actually makes a good point. Nostalgia for millennials is what it was. And I think that's right. I'm not a millennial. Yeah. I'm a Gen Xer, and I absolutely loved it. While you were gone, Brinson, I told Debo I was actually getting a little emotional watching it because it took me back. Because Nevermind came out my freshman year. Chronic came out my sophomore year of college. I should verify. I think Doggy Style's 93, Debo.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously sophomore, junior year. So all those things are right in the wheelhouse. Eminem came out. I was after college for me.
Well, and then I mean, obviously, Dre Day was it still Dre or Dre Day? That's 2001.
Still Dre.
Yeah.
California loving, as Debo calls it. That came out.
Yeah, don't put that on me.
That's you. Yeah, California. I was disappointed there was no Tupac hologram.
Yeah, someone in the chat said they're mad at you. That's what they came to watch halftime for, and it never materialized.
Still got California love. I mean, I thought those were awesome. Mary J. Blige was fine.
Debo liked her a lot. Like I'm not a married.
I'm just not a married. Yeah, and I'm not a Kendrick Lamar guy either. But I thought that was pretty.
Oh
cool.
My god, I love that. I love that. That might have been one of my favorites. And you pointed out, Brinson, rightly that Prince is probably still the number one on the list. But good Lord, this is close.
Oh yeah, 2001 came out in 1999, right?
Go ahead.
Probably not your cup of tea because I was I think sitting down the row from you. But the one Super Bowl that I have been to in Miami, 54.
Who was that?
Right up my alley with Shakira, Jennifer Lopez, Bad Bunny, J Balvin.
I couldn't even remember anyone.
This would top that.
I forgot about that completely. My last memory of that.
By the way, next year I want to go to the game. I'm fine going to the game.
I said that while you were gone.
More importantly, Debo needs to be at the game as
Debo
well.
would have been cutting loose had he been in SoFi Stadium for halftime.
Oh my god!
He may still be on the field.
One of my ice cubes just exploded. It popped.
Yeah, that was a great halftime show. I felt that halftime show was so good that I told Breech that the Bengals win was all but guaranteed, based on solely how I felt about it.
I thought the over was going to hit because, okay, guys, Mary J. Blige was great. She was great. I just didn't all I wanted was just more Snoop and Dre.
But I think Debo was right. You missed this, but they started and ended it. And by the way, that set, unbelievable. Shout out to the people that put the set together in 4.5 minutes and nothing collapsed. I mean, you had to hold up 50, 75 cents. That didn't break down.
This was 50
had the hoopties out there.
Was 50 was Mr. Cent? Was he announced ahead of time? He wasn't, right?
I don't know. Debo, was he announced?
No, I mean, not unless it was like 20 minutes before. No, because the whole time it was the 5 performers. It was Snoop, Dre, Kendrick, Mary J, and Eminem. Like for the past 3 months since they made the announcement.
Yeah, and so
it seems like from time to time they bring out these surprises. That was a wonderful surprise when you just see him hanging and you're like, oh.
Well, and I was like, is that 50 Cent? Because he doesn't look like 50 Cent, but he's playing it's your birthday. Like,
no, that was so good.
Yeah,
the whole thing was
apparently he was hanging upside down in the regular video.
Yes, that was an ode to I believe 2003 when that came out. And then Ryan, I don't know if your son is into Anderson .Paak, but he was on the drums during a couple.
Oh, that guy looked like he was famous.
Okay, who is Anderson .Paak?
He just says a drummer, like a famous drummer.
But he's a singer. He can play a lot of instruments. Very, very talented.
Is he like a rapper? Okay.
Yeah, I mean singer, rapper.
Because I saw a bunch of people on Twitter who are like, "Yo, it's Anderson .Paak on drums," and I was like, "Just pretend like you don't."
Oh my gosh, Debo, how old is Anderson .Paak? Do you know?
36.
I would guess no.
Just a guess.
26, 27.
Brinson cheated. He's 36.
Okay.
He looks young.
I think he was that old.
I know. I'll ask my 14-year-old about it. I bet he's into that. He listens to.
He's in that wheelhouse.
I'll just say this quickly, Debo. He went to the mall with his buddies the other day and got himself a Mac Miller T-shirt. So I think he's into Mac Miller now.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure 50 was not it wasn't announced beforehand. So that was like a cool surprise to have him pop in. And I just thought the way that they took all the songs and didn't just play them. I know I'm sounding old. I am old. They didn't just play them in like their normal form, because you're doing that medley, and then because they were when they were doing the Kendrick Lamar thing,
loved it.
But wasn't it it was Dre Day, right?
I think that was a Kendrick Lamar song. Was that off the Black Panther soundtrack, Debo? Because I don't know. Obviously I don't remember the lyrics at all, but the melody sounded familiar to me.
I don't know as much on the soundtrack.
Because
all right. I'm not sure.
Somebody's posted the set list. So it was.
Oh yeah.
Next episode by Snoop. Well, this is not right. It says it's California Love by Dre. Is that technically true? I thought it was a Tupac song.
It's Tupac featuring Dr. Dre.
Yeah. Into Club, not It's Your Birthday, but you know what I'm saying. I did sound old. It's the birthday song. Family Affair, No More Drama, Mad City, All Right, Lose Yourself, and Still Dre. Do we know what next episode was for first song?
No, I mean California Love was the favorite. California Lovin'. My apologies.
All right, that's like a California Raisin song.
California Raisins.
I think the one omission that I would say, and I think people.
I'm joking about Mr. Scent, guys. Like that's
nothing but a G thing was probably the notable omission from.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? You mentioned that, Debo, because the LA Times, because we were out there, had released what I thought they thought it was a set list. So I had favorited it on Spotify, and Nothing But a G Thing was number one, and clearly it was not number one because it was not out there at all.
Yeah, there's
lots of
cuts he got to make.
I guess.
I mean, Eminem could have done. He's got hit after hit, and he gets one opportunity, as some may say.
Nice.
Wow.
By the way,
I don't know who you're dunking on there, but deserves something.
Eminem took a knee. I didn't realize that was a thing, but apparently people were whinging about it on Twitter.
Yeah. Somebody pointed out, maybe it was our friend of the show, Dan Hansis, noted it was like Eminem wrote the greatest arena anthem of the last 30 years. Go figure. I mean, it's true. Like Lose Yourself gets it. Were people mad that if for those in the comments asked saying I'm old and all that stuff? Yeah, I mean I'm 40. I'm a 40-year-old dad. My demographic is I'm old. Wilco in My Morning Jacket. I know all the like I never got into Kendrick Lamar, but
I'll just say this quickly, Debo. I had to ride with Brinson a few times to the set, and he spends more time making sure his playlist is on instead of actually following directions. Instead of plugging in his phone so the map shows up on the screen on your car, he looks at the map on his handheld phone and fiddles with the playlist on the car.
Got to get that fish in somehow.
Oh, you're not even joking. It was a wild ride, my man.
Hey, I thought I did a good job driving almost every day.
You're fine driving. I don't.
You're talking about the third.
Sorry,
the third super friend. That joint. How do we react? We kind of transition quickly, but how do we react to Breech's reaction tonight? Like, did you expect something? That's tough, because even when like he said, when the Rams score, there's this belief that at least you push it to overtime with Joe Burrow and Evan McPherson's leg. That is if we drew it up, that's about as tough as you can get for John Breech.
I felt like, and I mean, I'm like, I sort of feel, I'm trying to think how it's like a little bit of a Pyrrhic victory. Like I'm very excited for the Rams, but I didn't have the game necessarily right. I think I'm closer in my prediction, my projection. If Odell Beckham plays the entire game, I really do think that made a huge difference. Credit to the Bengals for making adjustments, of course.
And you won the draft too. Way to go! Congratulations.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, cool. Good. That is exciting. And I had a bunch of Rams money line parlays and all that. But I mean, Rams covering would have been would have made my day very, very, very nice. Scotty Scheffler won. That was pretty cool. I predicted that on HQ, by the way, with Danny. But I thought that when coming out of half, the Bengals scored that immediate touchdown with T. Higgins. Stafford, the very next play, first play of the drive, the pick off Skoranic's hands. The Bengals, I think, then got a field goal, right, to make it 20-13. The Rams get a field goal with about 6 minutes left in the third quarter, and then went punt before that final 15-play, 72-yard, touchdown, game-winning drive. During the course of those three punt situations where they went 3 and out on all three plays and had a total of 6 yards on 3 drives, they were down 20-16 the entire time, and it felt like they were down 14 points. Like it felt like the game was over and that the Rams had no chance of winning, certainly no chance of covering. So I would think that if you're that's why. And by the way, the Bengals about the same time went punt. So the defense has stepped up, the offense has sort of turtled. It's what we've seen from McVay and Taylor before. I was shocked, frankly, at how, as Nathan Graber-McCray points out in the chat, Breech was like way too fine with that. Maybe it was just
he didn't sound fine when he talked about it. He was pretty fired up.
No, but he was like, I would be kind of crushed.
But he's seen this movie a million. He is living Groundhog Day, and I thought
Super Bowl.
I thought he was as fired up as we've seen him ever, perhaps at the top.
Let me ask you this: do you think there's a chance that in the back of his mind, while he's building all of these, like he really was the whole week on the shows, was building these and it's fine. That's how you decide how you think the game's going to play out, and you build your props that way. Do you think that Breech in the back of his mind was worried about getting blown out by the Rams and was just kind of, and is now kind of like pumped that the Bengals were there with a chance to win? I mean,
we'll have to ask him in a few weeks after it wears off, but maybe subconsciously, but he certainly, I mean, look, you like to say this all the time. If we told you with 5 minutes to go, you're up 20-16, are you happy with that? And you're like, well, hell yeah, I'm happy with it.
you signed for it.
Yeah. So
didn't any NFL player, NFL fan, any NFL coach sign for you're up 2016 with 5 minutes left in the Super Bowl?
The Falcons don't against the Patriots, but every other team does.
Right.
But I think Breech talked about it right before he logged off to make that unfortunate walk of shame that whatever happened before, whether T. Higgins, the call didn't happen, whether the Logan Wilson call didn't happen, the Bengals got the ball back with a minute and change to go, and they did nothing. And he said, they had an opportunity. And I do think he probably takes some solace in knowing that it wasn't a Joe Burrow pick six to end it, that type of thing. That's crushing. It was just that Matthew Stafford got hot down the end. They couldn't stop Cooper Kupp. The Bengals defense played really, really well.
Oh, yeah.
And then Joe Burrow, they couldn't block and he couldn't walk. And I think that's sort of how you rationalize it if you're John Breech, although clearly he wasn't happy and understandably so. But, that's it sucks for sure.
C-Rad's in the chat. Tell C-Rad's comment up because I think, A, it's accurate, and B, C-Rad is probably angry because he didn't win the draft after he thought. Although I guess he's sad now because C-Rad, it feels better to be angry than sad. He'll be sad later. By the way, if you're in the chat, if you're hanging out with us talking Super Bowl, smash that like button on the thing and hit alerts. We do actually do a lot more emergency podcast in the off season. I feel like.
Yeah. Go ahead, Debo. What were you going to say?
I think the only two worst ways to lose that game if you're up and you're the Bengals, this is from Breech's perspective, if it's a Burrow pick six, like you said, or if Evan McPherson is lining up for the kick and it goes wide left, wide right. That's the only way that it gets really worse than that.
Is
or a blown, you're up 30-3 or 30-10.
Right.
But there was never that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would rather. What do you guys think? How would you rather lose? Because I think Breech had said he'd rather get blown. Did you just say this? You probably just said this.
No, he was saying worse way to lose.
Said he'd rather just get blown out than have his heart ripped out. Right?
Yeah, I mean, he would probably say that, but you don't want to spend all that money spent on a ticket to see 50-0. I think you want to see a good game. You enjoyed it for 55 minutes, and there are worse ways to lose football games. A lot of worse ways. Debo just counted 2. I mentioned the pick six. That's 3. I mean, you could go down the list. Your team had a chance. Like they had a real chance to win it. And, Zach Wilson won 6 games the previous 2 years. I mean, that's huge.
And the silver lining is Joe Burrow in year 2, but that silver lining does not mean a thing for 6 weeks, 6 months. Like that's in the back of your mind a little bit, but you may never get this opportunity again. You should with Joe Burrow for the next 10, 15 years. But it really might never come around.
I feel like I'm just sort of thinking how, and I mean, I'm not trying to bring up NC State because it's irrelevant, but I'm just trying to like put myself in, care. I care because I think I care equally about NC State as Breech does.
Well, how did you feel about the way the Carolina Panthers played when they got their doors blown up by the Broncos and Cam Newton didn't jump on the football?
That one stung pretty bad.
I think that's worse that your quarterback sort of had that issue than the way that the Bengals lost. For me,
well, they also had it wasn't as bad a blow as you're thinking. It was just 24-10.
Okay, that's 14 points. That's a lot.
I just know that I would think back to if I were a Bengals fan or if this had been State that lost 23-20 in the national championship game, I would think back.
You're in the wrong parallel universe of that State thing, the national championship thing that happened,
I know, or the ACC title game. I just think, or like
lacrosse,
the Belk Bowl, Belk Bowl. I think it was just once you get past the game and you start once you sort of get past the initial rush of what an insane ride that Super Bowl was, and you're sitting down to your family and you're talking about hey, it's been great hanging out. We got to see our team in the Super Bowl. Then you start batting around the 4th down decisions, the refs calls. You start reliving it. And I just think this sort of loss sits with you longer as something that you relive.
So, Debo, how did you feel about the Donovan McNabb, Fred X, T.O.? Because that Donovan didn't play well down the stretch. I feel like that probably hurt more than what Breech might be going through.
Yeah, and it's different, I think, when you're a kid. Now, my dad wasn't a kicker for the Eagles, but that was 7th grade for me. I didn't go to school until Thursday. I faked a sickness Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and my mom was okay with it. So that definitely stung for a while as a 7th grader. But, I'm thinking if the Eagles are in a future Super Bowl, I'm sure you guys, would want maybe my perspective after the game, after a loss. God forbid, if I'm still working on this freaking podcast with Brinson in a few years when the Eagles make the Super Bowl, I'm not coming on to talk about a loss like that.
Which movie did you, or which time did you watch? That
Denzel? Was 2008. I watched American Gangster because the Eagles lost to the Cardinals in the NFC Championship.
Oh, right. That's right.
And I was.
Oh, that's right. You missed the Steelers Super Bowl. That's right.
Okay, I did not see
if I had to guess, Devo.
Yeah.
I would say I would guess that that your star is rising too fast for you to stick on this podcast for that long.
Oh no, he's going to have some sort of off-field incident. He gets stuck in this podcast for the next 10 years.
That's true. That's true.
I would say you guys know me, I think, fairly well, that I'm a very calm, collected person. If I have to do a podcast, if I happen to be on the podcast like Breech just was, and there was the winning team walking by me, and I'm punching someone in the face.
I love it.
Yeah, that was weird. Breech is like, look at all the crazy fans. It's like, dude, they're yelling at you because you're a Bengals fan who's standing.
Breech did tell us during the week that he's incredibly optimistic, and we talked about that on the Pick Six HQ show and how he was having positive thoughts and all that. And he said, of all his brothers and sisters, they're all more positive than he is. So I suppose all that positivity rubbed off on him, and he was able to sort of do the things that none of us would be able to do in the face of that kind of loss.
You know what I thought of? Oh, sorry. I thought of the fact that.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to continue.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to continue my point. I don't know if this. Maybe this isn't. I thought of the fact that I wanted to pick the Rams to win the Super Bowl before the season, and then Breech completely horned in on my Rams take, and it was like on like HQ in the podcast, like, yeah, I'm picking the Rams. The Rams are mine. I was like, what are you doing? Get off it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna switch to the Niners, and then Breech switched off the Rams, and the irony there was that his team lost to the team that he screwed me out of.
The good news for Breech, as we're doing this podcast, it's only 8:45 p.m. in Los Angeles right now, whereas typically by the time we wrap these things up, it's 1 or 2 in the morning if you're working from the stadium. So
what time did you get home on Saturday?
Midnight on the dot.
I pulled in my driveway at 12:30, buddy. That was a long day.
Oh
my God, I almost missed my flight from.
Oh gosh, you won't believe that, Devo. He was goofing
off.
No.
Picking a playlist.
No. I was fine on my flight out of LA.
Oh, your layover.
It was late. We landed, and when we landed, this alert that's like, it's like your section is now boarding. Like I did a dead sprint out of that airport and out of that airplane, and had to switch terminals in Atlanta, and was the last person on the plane, but got there in time.
No, I had a similar incident in Detroit. I landed at gate A72. And my next flight, which was boarding as I got off the plane, was at B2. So thank you, Detroit. And the train wasn't running. So
yeah.
Made it home.
I'm going to do this now. I'm sure you guys will love it, but search purposes and everything like that. But talking about silver linings and looking at Super Bowl 57,
what are you doing,
and Breech's, I think, hope for the future. Bengals are plus 1,200. They're 4th in terms of odds next year to win the Super Bowl behind the Chiefs, Bills, and the current champion Rams. What do you think the future is for both of these teams, and how likely, is it more likely that the Rams get back? Or are you betting on the Bengals probably?
Why is the 49ers on this list? They're 5th. So this is what I said on HQ. I think the Bengals are the better team to get back, and that's only because the Sean McVay rumors, which I don't think he's going anywhere, but that would be crazy. At 36, he pulled a Bill Cowher and took a year or two, or even a Sean Payton, I guess this is more applicable. But also the salary cap situation. Von Miller, his contract's up, and they don't have any draft picks, although Les Snead apparently doesn't care, and hats off to him for building that team the way he did. But I think
and we should point out that like all the draft picks they gave away, it was criticized, it was questioned. It doesn't matter because they won the Super Bowl.
No, that's right. That's the whole point, and that's fine. We've overvalued draft picks. I say that all the time, so it worked out for them. But I'm just going to go with the Bengals because they're younger. As Breech noted, $60 million in cap space. You can fill a whole bunch of needs. Maybe Zach Taylor is the one holding them back. We'll see, but I think they have a better chance of getting back there. That said, and Eric Casillas made this on this point on HQ. That conference has Patrick Mahomes.
See, that's what I was going to say is
Herbert.
Well,
Josh Allen.
And conversely,
Mason Rudolph.
The NFC might lose Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady in the same offseason.
Exactly.
I mean, if that happens, so you look at this list of teams to win the Super Bowl, and it's the Chiefs, Bills, Rams, Bengals, 49ers, Packers are at 15-1. And also, actually, throw that graphic back up that you had there with the free agents, because I was going to point out that Matthew Stafford has 1 year left on his deal, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
And has basically said that they're going to work out an extension this offseason. And it's going to be sort of one of those no-brainer, I'm sticking around extensions. That leads me to believe that Sean McVay is not going anywhere. Like, you can't trade for Matthew Stafford and then walk away, especially when you're losing your offensive coordinator and Kevin O'Connell.
College coaches do that stuff all the time. Also, I don't know if it matters.
I don't mean like it's like disrespectful to Stafford. I just mean that it's like go win another one, bro. Like, what are you doing?
One more thing. Kevin O'Connell's leaving too. Just the offense coordinator.
Yep, that's what I just said that.
And he's taken Wes Phillips, like a up and coming assistant with them. So some of that staff will be depleted.
Sony Michel, as a running back, you can replace him. Akers should be a lot better next year, fully removed from his Achilles. He didn't re-injure himself. Odell Beckham said that he wants to come back to LA no matter what. He would take a pay discount. He probably, I don't want to speculate that he suffered an ACL injury, but it would be pretty surprising given, I think that's probably the most likely outcome. So that's a big concern for him because, pretty unlikely if you suffer an ACL injury in the Super Bowl that you'll be ready for the start of the regular season.
Same knee too. So
same knee, not unheard of. If you lose Corbin and Allen, that's a problem. And then Von Miller, Mike Garafolo of NFL Media reported on Sunday morning in the pregame stuff that Von Miller loves LA, has had a blast there, more than willing to come back, but is going to explore his options. And as we pointed out, he won the Super Bowl, has 2 rings. We pointed out before the Super Bowl, he could potentially, go somewhere and get a monster contract with somewhere like the Jaguars.
Nobody blame him.
Yeah, nobody would blame him. He's, it's whatever.
One more thing. Eric Weddle tore his pec, and he has confirmed that he is again retired.
Retiring.
Going to be crushed on the basketball court shortly.
And is the NFL about to go through this little
Don't say it. What are you about to say? Don't say lull.
No, not a lull. We've had some of the best playoffs we've ever seen. Just that I think we're going to get back to a situation where, now that Tom Brady is gone.
Oh, you mean more?
It's wide open. Like the
parity.
Bengals at 12-1, I wouldn't bet on. I wouldn't even consider betting on. But you start to look at who are you betting on down below? The Cardinals at 25-1, the Pats at 25-1, the Broncos at 22.
Teams have won the past 2 Super Bowls played in their home stadium, so that would add up for the Cardinals next year, right?
Yeah, I just said that. Cliff Kingsbury, why don't you send Kyler a note so he knows that he's going to go to the Super Bowl if he quits his belly aching?
How crazy is it that we go 54 Super Bowls with no one winning one in their home stadium, and then we get back-to-back years with?
And Brady Quinn made this point in HQ. It's also probably more important than the Kyler Murray Arizona connection for the Super Bowl. This is great news for guys like Deshaun Watson, Russ Wilson, if they want to change teams, because you can go to a team and go to Super Bowl immediately if you go to the right place. So something else.
We have a lot of time to talk about this, but I know there's a recent push, among Eagles fan base and I think others to go for Russell Wilson because you don't have Tom Brady. Sean Payton's gone from the Saints. Aaron Rodgers could be gone from Green Bay. The NFC, a lot more wide open. We think we know the top 3-4 contenders in the AFC next year. NFC could be anyone.
Debo, we got to get Debo off this pod, man. He's just repeated 2 things that we both said. One thing that each of us said.
Well, he's talking Russ Wilson to the Eagles.
I know.
I'm talking Russ signed an Eagles hat at the Pro Bowl. People are buzzing.
Oh, are they?
Are you okay with that, Debo? You and pro Jalen Hurts forever.
Yeah, Russ is a goody good off the
field.
I'm rethinking, man.
He's having second thoughts about his girlfriend.
I like going for, shout out to like you said. This is tackling on to a point that you just made, but the Rams went I'm all about going for it if you can get the win. My basketball team just did it. You're going all in. It may blow up in your face, but if you take that chance, that calculated risk, and you win the Super Bowl, it pays. All you need is one. All you need is one Super Bowl. The Rams haven't won in 20 plus years. Teams are still waiting to get their first one. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. And you look at what the Rams did with their all-in stuff, Odell and Von Miller. I mean, it made a difference in the playoffs and down the stretch. Like that's a large part of the reason why they won. They won the Super Bowl.
I tweeted this out, but I just want to normalize crying after Super Bowl victories. I didn't play in a game. I know that, but shout out Odell. I love Odell. Very deserving of this Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, good for him. And he balled out. And credit to him because everyone, myself included, was skeptical, and he absolutely balled out. And he's probably crying tears of anger because he just told Matthew Stafford he's going to kick him in the knee for that throw he made.
It's sort of. I mean, this is obviously random as crap, but so Scotty Scheffler, who's my favorite golfer, and Matthew Stafford, who's my favorite, I guess, NFL player right now. They're both from the same town, and Scotty Scheffler won the golf tournament today. They're both from Highland Park in Dallas. No, it's Highland Park, not exactly. They're not hurt for cash or championships in Highland Park.
The wrong sides of the track in Highland Park is what you're saying.
I mean,
who did Matthew Stafford go to high school with?
Clayton Kershaw was his catcher.
Right.
He was Clayton Kershaw's catcher. Excuse me.
Right.
Yeah, Kershaw.
So Kershaw carried the baseball team for Stafford, and Scheffler carried the golf team for Stafford. Is what you're saying?
I don't know.
That was more of a poking fun at it because I'm shocked that we didn't hear that on the broadcast because we've heard that on every Matthew Stafford broadcast for 15 years.
Right.
Back in Georgia.
Kershaw was 5-1 to be like the first celebrity show because he's obviously in LA as well. All right.
Title town for the LA recently.
Yeah, no kidding. These titles have come in spurts for these towns. Tampa Bay, LA.
I don't even know which other LA team has won a title. I was like, yeah, who else has won?
But the Lakers won
no idea.
COVID season.
Ryan's going to get New York coming up after NYFC, right?
Here we go. Oh, thank you, Debo. I forgot about NYCFC. Here we go.
Canes and NC State next. That's what we're going to get.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Did you see that? Actually,
no.
You know what? I'm not gonna
I did not see it.
What else are we missing? Or where do you think that this would rank in terms of ranking every Super Bowl? I will
have to look at your list, so you would be better equipped. But I loved it. It was a fun Super Bowl for me for sure.
Well, I'm gonna give you so last year's Super Bowl between the Bucks and there have been, you got to remember, there were a ton of really bad Super Bowls for a really long time because there were just a bunch of blowouts.
The other takeaway before you go on, and it relates to last Super Bowl and this one, obviously, you got to build your offensive line. I mean, that has to happen.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Brinson, when you're doing your list, do you elevate games that you were at? Naturally, that would make sense, but do you elevate them kind of on your list because of how you got to experience it live? Obviously, not being at the past two, but you were there from 2010 to 2020.
I mean, I don't know that I do it consciously. I probably do it subconsciously. Right. I also had an insane run of Super Bowls that we were at. I mean, the one
I will say, our last Super Bowl was in Miami. It was Chiefs 49ers. That game I don't know how it felt on television. In person, it felt that throw from Mahomes to Tyreek. You're like, oh my God, that's unbelievable.
I had that game at let's see. All right. So I had last year's Super Bowl Bucks over Chiefs at 26. Which is crazy to think about. There's just that many bad Super Bowls.
I was gonna say that feels like it's a little bit below
24 was 49ers over Bengals 26-21.
1988.
Yep. Steelers, Cowboys, Packers, Patriots, Eagles. I mean, a ton of these modern Super Bowls. It's just been a great run for these guys.
Start with 10. What's 10 and work up?
Okay, 19, by the way, was Chiefs 49ers.
Oh, so, wow. All right.
10 was all right. So 10 was the Santonio Holmes catch.
Okay.
9 was the Joe Namath guaranteed victory.
Sure.
8 was the Kevin Dyson coming up just short the last Rams Super Bowl.
Great recreation by Chris Hassel in the Pick Six podcast.
It was
non-Super Bowl winning spoof.
7 was I think was it the catch, right? Was Montana over the Bengals in the second one?
No, I thought you just mentioned that game. You mentioned the 26.
Not the catch. It's the second. It's Super Bowl XX 23.
I don't know.
Jerry Rice had
23 was 88. 1988 season.
So maybe the other one was the 81 game.
All right. Jerry Rice had the record breaking.
That was 16. Yep.
Number 6 was Giants over Bills with the wide left.
Oh boy.
Number 5 was Steelers over Cowboys, Super Bowl 13. And I tried to go back and rewatch these so that way I could, because you don't want to be like, that one's old. I don't know anything about that. Number 4, Pats over Falcons. Number 3, Eagles over Pats. 2, the helmet catch, and number 1, Super Bowl 49 in Arizona, the Malcolm Butler game.
Oh gosh, that's number 1.
Yeah,
that's a good.
It's going to be hard for you to replace that one. I feel like the way that you speak about it, it's going to be hard to supplant.
Wilson and I were sitting next to each other. Don't you agree?
I don't know. I was sitting next to Prisco. Maybe you're on the. I think you're on the other side.
Maybe so.
And what happened? Well, I mean, you could be on the other side of me. I could have been sitting.
No, I was. I was on the other side of you because you had your camera right there.
Exactly. I didn't see the play happen because I was taking pictures of it.
We were freaking out about our red eye if it went to overtime.
Yeah, I didn't see the play happen because I was actually taking a picture of it. And Prisco's like, I said, "What happened?" He goes, "He intercepted it, dummy." And we were right there in that corner. That was a great game. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what happened was these Pats. This is my theory on it: is that we had so the Pats came around, and because the Pats sometimes would get to the Super Bowl and be good but not great teams, you know?
Like, yeah, no, they had a lot of games they could have lost in the Super Bowl.
But they would just, these games ended up being ridiculously close because the Patriots would always get there, and they might run into a team that was like the Falcons, that was just a really good Falcons team that, you know, just because of the Patriots, they were able to make it, you know, make things close. I mean, I think this is definitely a top 15 Super Bowl, right? Let me ask you this. Was this better? And Debo, I'll say this to answer your question. It probably does elevate it to be there in person.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you at all for that. That makes sense.
I really enjoyed it from home, but I don't know. Breech had great seats. He wasn't there working. He was just there with his family. He had great seats. The the press box seats looked pretty good from what we saw on Twitter. So I'm sure it'd have been fun to watch there too. And the halftime show probably would have put it over the top.
Where would you put this? So the 2 Super Bowls you were at, and then another one that are in the 15 to 20 range. The Ravens over the 49ers in Indy, your first one. The Saints over the Colts, which was a 14-point win. But
wait, no, the Indy game was Giants-Pats.
Oh, right. Sorry. New Orleans game, Ravens, 49ers, and then also the Giants-Pats, which was at 18.
I mean, Giants-Pats was a great game. That was the Manningham catch down the sideline on a fantastic throw by Eli Manning.
I sort of think that this is a similar game to that one.
I think Gronk dropped or had an opportunity to catch the game-winning touchdown in the end zone. He didn't drop it. It was close.
It was like a crazy Hail Mary.
But right, it's one of those things like you expect it to happen for the Patriots. The next year, the lights went out. There's a huge 4th down conversion that helped. I think
the Crabtree near catch. I think this game is kind of similar.
Yeah, and those are both great games.
And quick, also, how would you summarize like how you rank best? I know what a best game is, but I'm just surprised. And I know there's been a lot of bad Super Bowls, but that last year comes in at 26. It's better than 20 or 28 other Super Bowls.
So here was the criteria for that. Number 31, by the way, was that Patriots-Rams 13-3 game. Like, I thought that was worse. Number 30 was Broncos-Panthers. I mean, like, we're talking like, I went back and tried to rewatch all of these. There are a bunch of like 20-point blowouts, like Raiders 38, Reds, Washington football team 9, Giants 39, Broncos 20. There's just a picture of like just a limp John Elway getting destroyed by LT. Broncos 34, Falcons 19. Some of these games are just terrible. And so for me, Debo, on that one in particular, to put it at number, like the Colts Bears Super Bowl was trash. That was a bad Super Bowl. The fact that Tom Brady at his age in his first year with a new team, and he won the game at home, and it was like Mahomes, the Mahomes is a favorite. It was a bad Super Bowl, but I thought that the storyline surrounding Brady with no fans in the stands, the pandemic year, I thought that it moved it up a little bit for me.
Also helps that you won $80K that day. I think that just bumps it up at least 5 spots.
Just for clarification, there were 20,000 fans. We just looked that up because I thought there were more people than that, but there were only 20,000. But still, not less than half full.
And the other thing for this one was I went and I was going through we did this when I was at the Lakers game with a friend of the program, Drew Dinsick, and some guys, and we were trying to figure out where we'd rank it. And I got to Steelers Seahawks. I was like, there's no way Chiefs and 49ers is worse than Steelers Seahawks. It's a pretty comparable game. I was going to put it one spot ahead of that. So that was kind of the
Chiefs 49ers or Chiefs Bucks?
Chiefs Bucks, excuse me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, you start going through this list, you're like, man, these Super Bowls kind of stunk for a long time.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if they did every game in the regular season with all the pomp and circumstance that they do these Super Bowls, you just buying in. Like it's 8 hours of pregame coverage. There's a halftime show. I mean, obviously you get tired of it, but just the way they build it up, that you sort of find reasons to like it. But there have been some real stinkers. Is last I don't know if you said last already. Is that the Atlanta Super Bowl? The Rams Pats?
Ted, no, I had 49ers over the Chargers.
Oh, well, at least there were points in that game. I mean,
next to last was the New York Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl. The Atlanta.
That's not. Wait, the Rams Patriots isn't.
Rams Patriots was a close game.
Oh, so hard to watch.
It was tough to watch, but like, I mean, Broncos Seahawks is just, it's over in like 5 or 10 minutes.
Where are you on that, Debo? Do you like? I prefer watching blowouts, even if I don't have an interest in either team, as opposed to just like a 10-3 slog or whatever that game ended up being.
You're saying like a high scoring, big time blowout versus,
right.
I think some of these games too, it's kind of like how you remember money being attached to it. And I know you haven't gambled since 1993, since Doggy Style was released. But,
you're not wrong.
Yeah, and in a Super Bowl, if it's going to be a bad game, so to say, I would rather have the bad game blowout rather than the.
I'd rather have a. I mean, I felt like I didn't really love that Atlanta Super Bowl at all either, but because we were also expecting. Remember, we saw Chiefs and Rams in the regular season, and tons of points, and we were expecting the same thing because the Pats had a good offense. We were sort of expecting points. It didn't come. I mean, I don't know. I just felt like I feel like if a game, I would rather have a close. A game lacking offense than a 55-12 drubbing.
I always say I like low scoring games if it's good defense and you can tell that it's good defense. I don't even know if that game was truly good defense as much as it was just embarrassing offense.
Yeah, I think
Belichick figured out Sean McVay's outside zone runs and put it on him.
I think Sean has like a chance to come back to CBS at some point in the future if law school doesn't work out because of Sean McVay's ring now.
Oh, good point.
Oh, boy.
Because that's why he got fired. Everybody knows that.
I love that you tweeted that out.
We get fired. Like the Bills Super Bowls by and large are pretty bad. I don't know. I for any game that I hadn't watched, I tried to go back and rewatch it. But
you've said that 3 times now. We believe you. We know you watch the games. You must not have watched.
How do you watch them? Tell us. How do you watch them?
YouTube or like just found. I mean, it was hard to find video. The initial version of this article took a very, very long time to write.
No, you rewatch everyone every year.
No.
And learn new things. No, he says no, Debo. Hard no.
Hard no. I don't need to rewatch. I remember these. I didn't rewatch any of the ones I'd watched. I might have rewatched I might have just gone back and watched like the highlights of the Seahawks Pats, because some of the things you forget is there's this insane Julian Edelman catch, and then I think Jermaine Kearse made the crazy catch on the sidelines where it like popped up in the air and landed in his hands. All leading up to the Malcolm Butler play.
Right. I don't know if it's Kearse or not, but I remember that play too.
Yeah. And like
that's Matthews. Was it like Chris Matthews in that game that made the crazy catch?
That's what I think it was, Debo. The guy who had one good game his whole entire career.
Well, it's like that one and Eagles Pats where it just changed, like the ramifications coming out of it for both of those games were just enormous. I mean, the Seahawks losing and not hitting the ball to Marshawn basically like blew up the Legion of Boom. Nick Foles beating Tom Brady essentially ruined Carson Wentz's career.
I mean, what could this game do? What could this game like mean in the future as we get a couple of years away from it?
I mean, I think the obvious one is,
you walk right into that one, dummy.
The obvious one is the Matthew Stafford thing. I mean, I do think I understand nobody wants to give me this, and that's fine. I just think
they're not going to.
I think after he finishes, if he plays 3 or 4 more years with the Rams and plays 15 to 16 to 17 games per year and puts up the stats that he should put up in that offense, he'll get in. I think we will look at this as a possible turning point for the Bengals, depending on what they do from a front office standpoint. Now, they're in good shape. That roster's good. But if we get 2 more years down the road and if Joe Burrow has another knee injury next year because he's getting sacked more than anybody in the entire NFL, the drumbeat will grow a little bit for, are the Bengals running the risk of like, is this an Andrew Luck situation? I guess I think we could start to look at. Where Luck just got beat up so badly that you're like, oh my God, this guy was a stone cold lock to be a great talent, and they're wasting him. I think that's a possibility.
No, it is. I think they have $60 million cap space, have draft picks that you just fix the offensive line, and then once you do that, you do what the Saints do.
And I mean, Aaron, we talked about it leading up to the game too. Aaron Rodgers played in 1 Super Bowl. Drew Brees played in 1 Super Bowl. These guys are first ballot slam dunk Hall of Famers. Dan Marino played in 1 Super Bowl. Talk about three guys who are in the top 10. Right?
Where are you
10.
going with this?
Just that it's easy to say, well, Joe Burrow will be back.
Oh, I thought you were going to make another Matthew Stafford thing. No, that's right. I think that's important to say. That Joe Burrow, you don't know. It could be a long time. Ben Roethlisberger got to it in year 2. Got to it in 2008 and 10, and then he hasn't been back in 12 years. You just don't know. Unless you're Tom Brady, there are no guarantees that you're going to play in the Super Bowl.
Kevin Stewart in the chat points out Patriots Panthers was a great Super Bowl. That was number 11, so that's the only reason we didn't hear.
Oh yeah, the kickoff that went out of bounds. Good Lord.
Yeah, I had the Patriots basically have 7 of the top 12 Super Bowls. I think. No, because they have 6 of the top 12 Super Bowls. And like 3 of the top 4. But yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow, you look at where this division is. The Steelers are losing Roethlisberger. Baker Mayfield's future is very much up in the air. And that would, I mean, if your former number 1 pick you thought was a franchise quarterback suddenly is not there anymore, the Lamar Jackson stuff is, you still have to get him to a contract.
Yeah, they have holes. I think the issue isn't the AFC North. The issue is the AFC West, I suppose, and the AFC East with
the issue is the Chiefs and the Bills,
and Mac Jones.
Sure, and we talked about.
I'm kidding. It's the Bills and the Mahomes.
Well, I mean, the thing with the Bills and the Chiefs, we talked about this before the playoffs, that the Bengals had a good path to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl because they only had to play the Bills or Chiefs. Only one of them. They didn't have to play both guys. That's enormous. And so, it's not going to work out like that every year. You might end up in a situation where you got to play both of those teams, and it makes it a lot harder to get back to the Super Bowl. I think there's a more likely chance that the Rams play in the Super Bowl next year than the Bengals.
Yeah, I think you're right. Even though I sort of think the Bengals are in better shape personnel wise and salary cap wise. Okay. Also, they're going to be playing the first place schedule. So that's something.
That's a good point.
And they'll be a better football team than they were this year when they only won 10 football games because they were up and down and they're a young football team. And you would expect that. So, but they have a lot of places to improve. And, if they don't address the offensive line like the Packers don't address the wide receiver position, then Zach Taylor should be fired immediately. Well, I guess
that's not necessarily his job. But yeah, they should. Yeah, they need to. That offensive line has to get better.
It will. I think they will certainly have a plan to do that because otherwise Joe Burrow should pull a Kyler Murray.
Okay. Kyler Murray. Oh, I forgot I live bet the Rams plus 3.5. Nice. Anything else?
I would just like to ask for all the people out there, you guys just spent 5 days together after not seeing each other for 2 years.
Oh, Devo, just
let him finish. I'm going to hear this so you can tell your story. I know what you're going to say.
Is there a freaking update on the tattoo?
First, Brinson, tell you.
Let me point this out. So, Devo, Breech and Wilson got to California before me.
He was late, if you can imagine that.
It wasn't my fault. My flight was
never. Oh, I was tracking his flight. Don't worry.
Because I had to do the podcast with RJ. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were tracking my flight. It was weird. So I forgot you knew that. I get there and sprint into the hotel room. I actually, I probably shouldn't admit this on the podcast, but I will anyway. I was like, they were like, "Are you going to valet your car?" I was like, "No, I'm going to self-park it." And then I forgot my car. Like I was sprinted up to do the podcast and just completely forgot my car. And so the next day I came down, they're like, yeah. Guess you're going to valet, huh? So anyway, I forgot my car. I go up and I podcast with RJ. I walk downstairs to the lobby bar where Wilson and Breech are. And I look at them. Haven't seen these guys in 2 years, like in theory, best friends. I'm like, "What's up?" And they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" Sit down. There's not nary a hug or like even like it was like a fist pounder exchange because we spent so much GD time on nobody's each other, StreamYard calls with each other that nobody's like, oh, what's up? Like EK got there. We hadn't seen him in 2 years. We're like, oh, like, big hugs and everything. Me, Wilson, and Breech to each other. It's like, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah, it's like hugging your wife every time you walk into the door. Like I just saw you 5 minutes ago.
It's like,
Absolutely.
Hey, how you doing? You don't look any different than you do on Zoom.
So, Debo, here we are on the tattoo. I said, Breech said I could get the Joe Burrow 9, and then he said you can just get a Bengals logo. I will get anything, and I think we talked to Kevin Steinwell, the NFL editor, who has some ink on his arms, and he said for $230, he thinks we can get it done. I'm ready. Now I just need the Venmo from Brinson, and it's a go.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get it done. Do you think you're gonna go B or JB9?
Brinson said Breech said B. I don't care. Like honestly, I don't care. I like the JB9. I thought that was sort of cool.
I mean, this is a huge development that Ryan Finley's just going to the wayside, right?
I don't care. Yeah. We can put Ryan Finley on there. I don't care. I'm not BSing you. I don't care.
It's the Ryan Finley thing. I think. That's why I think the B makes sense because he is a Bengals quarterback who beat the Steelers. The Ryan Finley thing, the problem becomes 1, the artwork, 2, the money. It's way more expensive, and then 3, like
not my money.
No, I know, but I'm saying like so the artwork is a problem because you got to get this Ryan Finley thing done, and that's for Breech. The amount of times you're gonna be jabbed by this needle, no fun. With the Ryan Finley thing, and you're gonna have another man's face on your shoulder, which is probably not gonna make your wife happy. Or
I was gonna get it right here underneath my neck.
no regrets with Ryan Finley's.
No regrets. Finley or nothing. Nathan Graber McCray says in the chat. That's Debo, by the way. That's his burner.
That's right. Look, we'll figure out the tattoo, but yeah, we're gonna get something. It just needs to be done. It just needs to be done.
As Debo noted very angrily on Twitter, it's been more than 400 days.
Sure, it's been a while.
Debo was trolling us from 3,000 miles away. By the way,
I know. Yeah, maybe it should be a tattoo. Maybe it should be a Matthew Stafford tattoo.
That's fine. Oh, look at that, dude! Where's my car? Where'd you get that from, Debo? If you're watching on YouTube.com, you can see.
What the hell is this?
See Brinson on the front of the movie poster. Dude, where's my car? And he has the face of Ashton Kutcher. It looks like.
Why am I Ashton Kutcher and Dude, where's my car?
Because you left your car outside and they hit the valley.
Oh, right. I do love Dude.
That was incredibly fast artwork by Debo. Well done.
I do.
This guy forgets the story he told. No wonder he forgot his freaking car. He forgets the story he told 60 seconds ago.
He didn't even crop out the net. I mean, what do you do?
I'll tell you one more thing quickly, Debo. Justin Page, the researcher who's awesome at his job and very low key. Probably 2 days into the trip, he had a nickname for Brinson, based on his late night exploits. The Machine. He goes, "Where's the Machine?" Because he's just, you cannot kill him. He's like RoboCop in terms of not fighting crime, in terms of having a good time.
Good time to point out.
That's good. Yeah, what's that?
Just good time to point out this podcast does not stop. I think our regular listeners know this is full 365. We have weekday podcasts 5 days a week. Dang. Will not stop.
Yeah, like it's hard to do 12 podcasts a week during the regular season. It's actually even harder to do 5 a week during the off season, but we do it anyway. We don't take. I take maybe 2 weeks off, and you will, you'll be enthralled by like Wilson or Breech or Dave Richard or somebody hosting, maybe Pete Prisco. But yeah, we're 5 days a week, 24/7, 365. Be here all off season. In fact, I would even argue that the free agency. This is where like the podcast really thrives. Is like the free agency. Breakdown, just because there's so much crazy stuff that happens. Why are you beating your head against the mic?
I'm thinking about the emergency free agency podcast.
Right.
In our future.
I know. It's like, so yes, of course we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow being Tuesday. I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing Tuesday, Diva?
We're doing just a deeper dive. Hopefully we don't have an Aaron Donald emergency podcast on like Thursday of this week. But lots of draft content coming up. I know Ryan is thrilled
John
to hear
Breech
that.
is in the chat. He's at this hotel.
Made it back to this hotel. Still sad.
And for everybody that joined us in YouTube and is watching now, after the stream ends, go back and watch the first 35 minutes with Breech. He was on this show. Just want to note that to everybody. He did stick around for 35 minutes.
And Breech, have one of your little $18 frou-frou drinks. You deserve it.
Yeah. Everyone, if you're listening on live on YouTube right now, right? Hey, Breech, sorry, buddy, in the chat, or some condolences to old Breech because.
And we should thank all the listeners and all the viewers on the YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys are awesome. You're a perfect crew of nut jobs for this nut job podcast. And as always, like, we get done with another season, man. And it's been a grind, but it's been a blast. It's always fun, especially with all these. Now that we have these live chats, it does feel like the personality of the listeners comes out even more. You guys are fun as hell too.
You say live chats, Brinson, and hopefully at some point in the near future, obviously things always fluid with this, but hopefully some actual live shows with you guys. That is definitely in the works where we can actually have some live audiences with Pick Six, not just in the live chat, but live in person, Vegas, Arizona, who knows? A city near you.
I pitched Vegas pretty aggressively for the draft. I said that we would bring Debo and that anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's been a fun season.
It's a day that ends in Y. Brinson doesn't know what he's talking about.
That's right. It's been a great season. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. For Matthew Stafford, congratulations. For John Breech, condolences, buddy. I know it's a tough loss. For Ryan Wilson, I'm Will Brinson. We'll see you guys later.